Welcome everyone, welcome. Absolute rigmarole today, running around everywhere. Got all set up, ready to go. About to hit the button and realized I have 1 bar of service on my hotspot, so there's no way you can live stream from that. So I had to pack everything up and move to another location again. So serves me right from trying to pick something new instead of sticking with the good old trusted place that I go to. So let's fix this guy up here. All right, let's get started. It's been a long day, so we'll go for an hour and see how we're going. Let's start reading from Judges 12. So here we go. All right, so just to backtrack on where we got up to, we ended on a really sad part of the Bible, and it's this tragic vow of Jephthah, where he vows whatever comes through his front door, he will set up, offer as a burnt offering before God. And it turns out that it's his daughter dancing with a tambourine. And anyway, in order to not break the vow, which she cannot be broken, obviously he sends her away, and then he has to offer her up as a burnt offering. What's even sadder is how accepting she is of it. That she loves the dad so much, the father so much, that she willingly just says, yes, okay, whatever you vowed, which that's the real heartbreaking part of that. So it's a really deep, it's just one of those parts that makes you just think, how can that happen? But it happens, and yeah, we see that why we shouldn't make vows just off the top of our head to God. Why we should be really careful when we take oaths and other things as well. It's, lesson learned here, put it that way. So we're starting here now, Jephthah's conflict with Ephraim. So Jephthah's still going in the story. He's obviously now got a bit of dark history, a tragic history here to contend with. So Jephthah's conflict with Ephraim. The men of Ephraim were called to arms, and they crossed to Zaphon and said to Jephthah, why did you cross over to fight against the Ammonites and did not call us to go with you? We'll burn your house over you with fire. And Jephthah said to them, I and my people had a great dispute with the Ammonites. When I called you, you did not save me from their hand. And when I saw that you would not save me, I took my life in my hand and crossed over against the Ammonites. And the Lord gave them into my hand. Why then have you come up to me this day to fight against me? Then Jephthah gathered all the men of Gilead and fought with Ephraim. And the men of Gilead struck Ephraim, because they said, you are fugitives of Ephraim, the Gileadites, in the midst of Ephraim and Manasseh. And the Gileadites captured the fjords of the Jordan against the Ephraimites. And when any of the fugitives of Ephraim said, let me go over, the men of Gilead said to him, are you an Ephraimite? When he said no, they said to him, then say Shibboleth, okay? And he said Sibboleth, for he could not pronounce it right. So it was a bit of a test. Then they seized him and slaughtered him at the fjords of the Jordan. At that time, 42,000 of the Ephraimites fell. Jephthah judged Israel 6 years. Then Jephthah the Gileadite died and was buried in his city in Gilead. So we see these battles going on with the Israelites internally, and they're just lots of people dying here because they've grown so big too. They've grown so big, and they've obviously settled in their land now. And as they're settled in their land, things are changing, and people are, making all sorts of different agreements with one another. Ibzan, Elon, and Abdon. So good old Elon. So it's a biblical name, apparently. After him, Ibzan of Bethlehem judged Israel. He had 30 sons and 30 daughters he gave in marriage outside his clan. That's a huge family. And 30 daughters he brought in from outside for his sons. And he judged Israel 7 years. Then Ibzan died and was buried at Bethlehem. After him, Elon the Zebulunite judged, so he's from the tribe Zebulun, judged Israel, and he judged Israel 10 years. Then Elon the Zebulunite died and was buried at Ajalon in the land of Zebulun. After him, Abdon the son of Hillel the Pirathonite judged Israel. he had 40 sons and 30 grandsons who rode on 70 donkeys. Wow. So, and he judged Israel 8 years. So, I mean, we see here, this is prosperity that God's given them, big families. Then Abdon, the son of Hillel, the Piranathite, Pirathonite, I should say, died and was buried at Pirathon in the land of Ephraim, in the hill country of the Amalekites. Hey, here we go, Samson. And the people at the birth of Samson, the people of Israel again did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. So the Lord gave them into the hand of the Philistines for 40 years. So if you've watched any of the versions of the story of Samson, there's some good versions of it. They all have a different take on his personality. We can see here his personality is quite he's an interesting character, Samson. But once again, he teaches us some valuable lessons, which we'll cover as we go through here. So there's a certain man of Zerah of the tribe of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and had no children. And the angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said to her, Behold, you are barren and have not borne children, but you shall conceive and bear a son. Therefore be careful and drink no wine or strong drink, and eat nothing unclean. For behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. So that is, this is talking about you'll bear a son, and then it's the Nazirite vow. So therefore be careful and drink no wine or strong drink, and eat nothing unclean. For behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. No razor shall come upon his head, for the child shall be a Nazirite to God from the womb. And he shall begin, so that means he's fully dedicated to God. He shall begin to save Israel from the hand of the Philistines. So Samuel the prophet was he took a Nazirite vow, and he had very long hair. So they don't cut their hair. So they let their hair grow long. And that's a big part of it, is their dedication to God. And so they take the Nazirite vow. Then the woman came and told her husband, A man of God came to me, and his appearance was like the appearance of the angel of God. Very awesome. I did not ask him where he was from, and he did not tell me his name. But he said to me, Behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. So then drink no wine or strong drink, and eat nothing unclean. For the child shall be a Nazirite to God from the womb to the day of his death. Then Manoah prayed to the Lord and said, O Lord, please let the man of God whom you sent come again to us, and teach us what we are to do with the child who will be born. And God listened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman as she sat in the field. But Manoah, her husband, was not with her. So the woman ran quickly and told her husband, Behold, the man who came to me the other day has appeared to me. And Manoah arose and went after his wife, and came to the man and said to him, Are you the man who spoke to this woman? And he said, I am. And Manoah said, Now when your words come true, what is to be the child's manner of life, and what is his mission? And the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, Of all that I said to the woman, let her be careful. She may not eat of anything that comes from the vine, neither let her drink wine or strong drink, or eat any unclean thing. All that I commanded her, let her observe. So he just repeats what he told her above. Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, Please let us detain you and prepare a young goat for you. And the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, If you detain me, I will not eat of your food. But if you prepare a burnt offering, then offer it to the Lord. But then if you prepare a burnt offering, then offer it to the Lord. When Manoah did not know that he was an angel of the Lord. So his appearance, his appearance is obviously not in a way that gives away, hey, I'm an angel. His appearance must be fairly much like a man, right? He must be dressed in normal clothes because obviously Manoah has no idea of what's going on here. And Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, What is your name, so that when your words come true, we may honor you? And the angel of the Lord said to him, Why do you ask my name, seeing it is wonderful? So Manoah took the young goat with the grain offering and offered it on the rock to the Lord, to the one who works wonders. And Manoah and his wife were watching. And when the flame went up towards heaven from the altar, the angel of the Lord went up in the flame of the altar. Now Manoah and his wife were watching, and they fell on their faces to the ground. The angel of the Lord appeared no more to Manoah and to his wife. Then Manoah knew that he was the angel of the Lord. And Manoah said to his wife, "We shall surely die, for we have seen God." But his wife said to him, "If the Lord had meant to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and a grain offering at our hands, or shown us all these things." It's quite interesting how he went up in the flame, isn't it? I don't remember this bit. Or shown us all these things, or now announced us to such things as these. And the woman bore a son and called his name Samson. And the young man grew, and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him in Mahaneh Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. Samson's marriage. Samson went down to Timnah, and at Timnah he saw one of the daughters of the Philistines. Then he came up and told his father and mother, "I saw one of the daughters of the Philistines at Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife." So he's very blunt the way he talks. Right? He's very, very rough around the edges. So you get her for me. Just get her. But his father and mother said to him, "Is there not a woman among the daughters of your relatives or among all our people that you must go and take from the uncircumcised Philistines?" But Samson said to his father, "Get her for me, for she is right in my eyes." Now in the movie version, there's this whole like romance scenes and all this, you see this soft side of Samson and all this sort of stuff. I don't know about that. I don't know about that in the way. It seems like here in this passage that he just saw her and he wanted her. And it was more about this, this lust and more about this than anything. Obviously, yeah, of course he had, he had that natural connection we have when we meet somebody. But once again, we see by his behavior later on that, he struggles with this. His father and mother did not know what it was, that it was from the Lord, for he was seeking an opportunity against the Philistines. At that time, the Philistines ruled over Israel. Okay, so this bit here tells us something interesting. So it says, his father and mother did not know that it was from the Lord. So that the Lord was putting this into Samson's spirit, in this lady, he sees her, and all of a sudden, this is God. What are you doing, God? You're doing something behind the scenes here, aren't you? Then Samson went down with his father and mother to Timnah, and they came to the vineyards of Timnah, and behold, a young lion came towards him, roaring. Then the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him, and although he had nothing in his hand, he tore the lion in pieces as one tears a young goat. But he did not tell his father or his mother what he had done. Then he went down and talked with the woman, and she was right in Samson's eyes. He's got love hard eyes for her. After some days, he returned to take her, and he turned aside to see the carcass of a lion. And behold, there was a swarm of bees in the body of the lion, and honey. He scraped it out of his hand and went on, eating as he went. And he came to his father and mother and gave some to them, and they ate. But he did not tell them that he had scraped the honey from the carcass of a lion. So once again, there's some interesting things here in this story. I mean, we see symbolically bees can represent both positive and negative things. But often, like, there's a verse that talks about being chased by a bunch of bees, I believe. There's a couple of passages about bees, I think. Yeah, so it talks about the Amorites, how they chased the Israelites as bees do and beat them down. It says here, that's the one. They surrounded me like bees. They went out like a fire among thorns. In the name of the Lord, I cut them off. So it's kind of like being surrounded. In that day, the Lord will whistle for the fly that is at the end of the streams of Egypt and for the bee that is in the land of Assyria. Interesting. So this passage here. Yeah, there's a very symbolic part here about they'll come in and settle in the steep ravines and clefts of the rocks. the bee that is in land of Syria. This is definitely one to study. But anyway, we see that there's the bee. Obviously, there's a swarm is like, the enemy, the swarms of the enemy. We see the lion. Obviously, we're meant to harm him. It's like very symbolic of the devil, how he roams around like a lion, but he tore him to pieces. We see the honey as well. Right, the honey is the truth. Tastes sweet as anything. And we see that, it goes down bitter in the stomach. See that in the book of Ezekiel as well. So we see this, we also see, like when you're fed with honey from the rock, it's like the waters of the living waters as well. So it's fed from Jesus, like from his word. So once again, there's a whole bunch of things here that relate to honey as well. His father went down, so let's go back. He says, after some days he returned to take her, the woman, and he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion, and behold, there was a swarm of bees in the body of the lion and honey. He scraped it out of his hands and went on eating as he went. And he came to his father and mother and gave some of them, and they ate. But he did not tell them that he'd scraped the honey from the carcass of the lion. So once again, he's taken a Nazirite vow. He's not actually even supposed to touch a dead body or anything like that as well, because it would make him unclean. So he's not to eat anything unclean, or that's a big part of it. His father went down to the woman, and Samson prepared a feast there, for so the young men used to do. As soon as the people saw him, they brought 30 companions to be with him. And Samson said to them, "Let me now put a riddle to you. If you can tell me what it is within the 7 days of the feast, and find it out, then I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes. But if you cannot tell me what it is, then you shall give me 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes." And they said to him, "Put your riddle that we may hear it." And he said to them, "Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet." And in 3 days they could not solve the riddle. On the 4th day they said to Samson's wife, "Entice your husband to tell us what the riddle is, lest we burn you and your father's house with fire." So they're cheating. "Have you invited have you invited us here to impoverish us?" And Samson's wife wept over him and said, "You only hate me, you do not love me." All right, so I don't know about you, but this is obviously, very manipulative. I know she's been manipulated too, but just in the way that if she felt anything for him, she would never have done this, obviously. Once again, she's in fear, of course, but once again, yeah, I think as your wife, you would expect that, she would have told him the truth and told him the situation, but she didn't. "Yeah, put a riddle to my people and have not told me what it is." And he said to her, "Behold, I have not told my father nor my mother, and shall I tell you?" She wept before him the 7 days that their feast lasted, and on the 7th day he told her, because she pressed him hard. Then she told the riddle to her people. All right, she still had an allegiance to her people anyway, because he was with the enemy. Let's put it that way. And the men of the city said to him on the 7th day before the sun went down, "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" And he said to them, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have found out my riddle." And once again, this is why sort of we see that obviously marrying the enemy was something that was never a good idea because of conspiring. I mean, this is conspiring here. She's conspiring with the enemy because they've threatened her. And so she's agreed to deceive him in order to, to protect herself. So once again, what's happening here? This is not a good situation. So he's made a mistake by marrying in with the enemy. Obviously, God is in this mix as well, and it doesn't really give us an indication of how much. It just says obviously earlier on it says God must have put something into his heart, because it says his father and mother did not know it was from the Lord, or he was seeking an opportunity against the Philistines. So hey, maybe this had to happen, but the point is, we see what the result is of playing both sides, and his wife was playing both sides of the fence. And the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him. He went down to Ashkelon and struck down 30 men of the town and took their spoil and gave the garments to those who had told the riddle. In hot anger, he went back to his father's house. And Samson's wife was given to his companion, who had been his best man. Okay, so he's not very happy. He's been through this situation, and let's put it this way: like that, he had an eye for this woman, and now she's given over to somebody else. So he's full of rage. Samson defeats the Philistines. After some days at the time of the wheat harvest, Samson went to visit his wife with a young goat, and he said, "I'll go into my wife in the chamber." But her father would not allow him to go in. And her father said, "I really thought that you utterly hated her, so I gave her to your companion. Is not her younger sister more beautiful than she? Please take her instead." And Samson said to them, "This time I shall be innocent in regard to the Philistines when I do harm them." So Samson went and caught 300 foxes and took torches. And he turned them tail to tail and put a torch between each pair of tails. And when he had set fire to the torches, so once again, we're just reading about the story of Gideon and the torches or the lamps, for example. It's quite interesting. We see once again this 300, it's not a 300 army, but it's 300 foxes, and they light them up. And when they had set fire to the torches, he let the foxes go in the standing grain of the Philistines, and set fire to the stacked grain and the standing grain, as well as the olive orchards. Okay, so the standing grain, the stacked grain, and the olive orchards. And the Philistines said, "Who has done this?" And they said, "Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he has taken his wife and given her to his companion." And the Philistines came up and burned her and her father with fire. Okay, so they were brutal. I mean, they just saw this as an opportunity to aggravate him even more. And so they burned his wife and her father. So even after all that, she ended up losing her own life, and then her father ended up being killed anyway. And Samson said to them, if this is what you do, I swear I will be avenged on you." Sorry, I just pressed a button accidentally. I'm making sure nothing happened. Whoops. And Samson said to them, "If this is what you do, I swear I will be avenged on you, and after that I will quit." And he struck them hip and thigh with a great blow, and he went down and stayed in the cleft of the rock of Etam. Okay, what does it mean here? So he says, "If this is what you do, I swear I'll be avenged on you, and after that I will quit." He struck them hip and thigh with a great blow. Okay, so he attacked them, it sounds like. And he went down and stayed in the cleft of the rock of Etam. So there's some sort of refuge in the rock. Cleft of the rock's like a cave, I believe. Then the Philistines came up and encamped in Judah and made a raid on Lehi. And the men of Judah said, "Why have you come up against us?" They said, "We have come up to bind Samson, to do to him as he did to us." Then 3,000 men of Judah went down to the cleft of the rock of Etam and said to Samson, "Do you not know that the Philistines are rulers over us? What then is this that you have done to us?" And he said to them, "As they did to me, so have I done to them." And they said to him, "We have come down to bind you, that we may give you into the hands of the Philistines." And Samson said to them, "Swear to me that you will not attack me yourselves." They said to him, "No, we will only bind you and give you into their hands. We'll surely not kill you." So they bound him with 2 new ropes and brought him up from the rock. When he came to Lehi, the Philistines came shouting out to meet him. And the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him, and the ropes that were on his arms became as flax that has caught fire, and his bonds melted off his hands. And he found a fresh jawbone of a donkey and put out his hand and took it, and with it he struck 1,000 men. And Samson said, "With the jawbone of a donkey, heaps upon heaps, with the jawbone of a donkey have I struck down 1,000 men." So that's a pretty cool scene in the Samson, more modern Samson movie, where he just keeps taking out all these men. And we see that the Spirit of God here is giving him this extreme strength, giving him this might, and no one can touch him while he's basically, in this state. As soon as he finished speaking, he threw away the jawbone out of his hand, and that place was called Ramoth Lehi. And he was very thirsty, and he called upon the Lord and said, You have granted this great salvation by the hand of your servant. And shall I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised? Which they always called the Philistines. And God split open the hollow, even David called them that. And God split open the hollow place that is at Lehi, and water came out of it. And when he drank, his spirit returned, and he revived. Therefore the name of it was called En-Hakkore. It is at Lehi to this day. And he judged Israel in the days of the Philistines 20 years. Alright, so the big downfall of Samson that we see was his love for women. And we see that with Samson, he had a soft spot where he'd already broken before, where his wife, his enemy wife, if you will, had managed to press him and get the information out of him, managed to cause him to give up his secret. And once again, it happens again. She presses him and he gives up his secret. This time, however, the stakes are higher and it costs him basically his life. And we realize that this wasn't, this is not God's plan for Samson, in the sense that Samson didn't want this to happen, so God didn't want this to happen to Samson, clearly, because we see here, he disobeys God in a sense, because he shares what he's not supposed to share. He's given this secret between God, the Nazirite vow, and he shares it. And because he shares it, then they compromise him. So once again, we see the outcome of disobedience that causes Samson to fall away for momentarily, but he's obviously, we see as his hair grows back, that changes. So the lessons we learn here is pretty clear that, you have to, if you set apart for God's purposes, you have to be really careful who you trust, and you also have to be very conscious of your own sin and very conscious of your own shortcomings as well. So we see Samson, he struggled with this. He struggled with this whole, sense of lust and this sense of, obviously he's probably chasing love, but it ended up being just this superficial love. This woman didn't love him. His previous wife didn't obviously treat him as such either. So anyway, let's read. So it says, Samson went to Gaza, and there he saw a prostitute, and he went into her. The Gazites were told, Samson has come here, and they surrounded the place and set an ambush for him all night at the gate of the city. They kept quiet all night, saying, Let us wait till the light of the morning, then we will kill him. But Samson lay till midnight, and at the midnight he arose and took hold of the doors of the gate of the city, and the two posts, and pulled them up, bar and all. And he put them on his shoulders and carried them to the top of the hill that is in front of Hebron. After this he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah, and the lords of the Philistines came up to her and said to her, Seduce him, and see where his great strength lies, and by what means we may overpower him, that we may bind him to humble him, and we'll each give you 1,100 pieces of silver. So Delilah said to Samson, Please tell me where your great strength lies, and how you might be bound, that one could subdue you. So once again, she's fishing for a secret. Samson said to her, If they bind me with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not been dried, then I shall become weak and be like any other man. Then the Lord of the Philistines brought up her 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried, and she bound him with them. Now she had men lying in ambush in an inner chamber, and she said to him, The Philistines are upon you, Samson. But he snapped the bowstrings as the thread of flax snaps when it touches the fire. So the secrets of his strength was not known. Then Delilah said to Samson, Behold, you have mocked me and told me lies. Please tell me how you might be bound. And he said to her, If they bind me with new ropes that have not been used, then I shall become weak and be like any other man. So he's humoring her in a sense. He's not giving it away, but eventually changes. So Delilah took new ropes and bound him with them and said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." And the men lying in ambush were in an inner chamber, but he snapped the ropes off his arms like a thread. Then Delilah said to Samson, "Until now you have mocked me and told me lies. Tell me how you might be bound." And he said to her, "If you weave the 7 locks of my head with the web and fasten it tight with the pin, then I shall become weak like any other man." So while he slept, Delilah took the 7 locks of his head and wove them into the web, and she made them tight with the pin and said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." But he awoke from his sleep and pulled away the pin, the loom, and the web. And she said to him, How can you say I love you when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me these 3 times, and you have not told me where your great strength lies. And when she pressed him hard with the words day after day and urged him, his soul was vexed to death. So once again, same situation, repeats again. And he told her all his heart and said to her, "A razor shall never come upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite to God from my mother's womb. If my head is shaved, then my strength will leave me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man." Then Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, and she sent and called the lords of the Philistines, saying, "Come up again, for he has told me all his heart." Then the lord of the Philistines came up to her and brought the money in their hands. She made him sleep on her knees, and she called a man and had him shave off the 7 locks of his head. Then she began to torment him, and his strength left him. And she said, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." And he awoke from his sleep and said, "I will go out as at other times and shake myself free." But he did not know that the Lord had left him. And the Philistines seized him and gouged out his eyes and brought him down to Gaza and bound him with bronze shackles. And he ground at the mill in the prison, but the hair of his head began to grow again after it had been shaved. Okay, so we see here that basically she betrays him, they gouge out his eyes, and they bring him down and throw him into prison. The death of Samson. Now the lords of the Philistines gathered to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon, which is the fish god, their god, and to rejoice. And they say, "Our God has given Samson, our enemy, into our hand." There's a funny story where the Philistines capture the ark, and God is basically present in this situation as he always is, but they find the statue of their God being messed with multiple times, which is quite humorous. It's a humorous part of the Bible we see. And then obviously they freak out and they return the ark, or they send the ark elsewhere to return it. So we see that, obviously their mighty god Dagon doesn't mean anything. It's just a statue. So he says here, "Our God has given Samson, our enemy, into our hand." And when the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, "Our God has given our enemy into our hand, the ravager of our country, who has killed many of us." And when their hearts were merry, they said, "Call Samson that he may entertain us." So they called Samson out of the prison, and he entertained them. They made him stand between the pillars, and Samson said to the young man who held him by the hand, "Let me feel the pillars on which the house rests, so that I may lean against them." Now the house was full of men and women. All the lords of the Philistines were there, and on the roof there was about 3,000 men and women who looked on while Samson entertained. So it was a big open ceiling. Then Samson called to the Lord and said, "O Lord, please remember me, and please strengthen me only this once, O God, that I may be avenged on the Philistines for my 2 eyes." And Samson grasped the 2 middle pillars on which the house rested, and he leaned his weight against them, his right hand on one and his left hand on the other. And Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." And he bowed with all his strength, and the house fell upon the lords and upon all the people who were in it. So the dead whom he killed at his death were more than those whom he had killed during his life. That he killed all his enemies in one hit. Then his brothers and all his family came down and took him and brought him up, and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of Manoah, his father. He had judged Israel 20 years. Now we see this and we go, well, God's sovereign, and God's sovereign over all things. And so we can see here that the Philistines, they gouged his eyes. So we know God obviously, knew all this was going to happen, of course. The question is, just about his disobedience when he shares this with his wife. I mean, he's not showing his discretion at all here. He shares it and then, when he shares it with Delilah and then she betrays him, we can see here, had he not shared these things wouldn't have happened, of course. So once again, it leads us into question on God's involvement here, because ultimately we see all the Philistines, they all get destroyed, right? All the enemy get destroyed here, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing that happens. And it cost Samson his life though. So there's a few questions that could be raised here when we read this passage. So, all right. So, how much time do we have? Yeah, we've got about 23 more minutes. So, Micah and the Levite. There was a man of the hill country of Ephraim whose name was Micah, and he said to his mother, "The 1,100 pieces of silver that were taken from you, about which he uttered a curse, and also spoke it in my ears. Behold, the silver is with me. I took it." And his mother said, "Blessed be my son by the Lord." And he restored the 1,100 pieces of silver to his mother. And his mother said, "I dedicate the silver to the Lord from my hand for my son, to make a carved image and a metal image. Now therefore I will restore it to you." So when he restored the money to his mother took 200 pieces of silver and gave it to the silversmith, who made it into a carved image and a metal image. And it was in the house of Micah. And the man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and household gods, and ordained one of his sons, who became his priest. In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Now there was a young man of Bethlehem in Judah, of the family of Judah, who was a Levite, and he sojourned there. And the man departed from the town of Bethlehem in Judah to sojourn where he could find a place. And as he journeyed, he came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah. And Micah said to him, "Where do you come from?" And he said to him, "I am a Levite of Bethlehem in Judah, and I am going to sojourn where I may find a place." Excuse me, I'm getting a bit yawny. And Micah said to him, "Stay with me, and be to me a father and a priest, and I'll give you 10 pieces of silver, a year, and a suit of clothes, and your living." And the Levite went in, and the Levite was content to dwell with the man, and the young man became to him like one of his sons. And Micah ordained the Levite, and the young man became his priest. And he was in the house of Micah. And Micah said, "Now I know that the Lord will prosper me, because I have a Levite as a priest." It's a bit of a strange story, this one. Danites take the Levite and the idol. In those days there was no king in Israel, and in those days the tribe of the people of Dan was seeking for itself an inheritance to dwell in. For until then no inheritance among the tribes of Israel had fallen on them. So the people of Dan sent 5 able men from the whole number of their tribe, from Zorah and from Eshtaol, to spy out the land and to explore it. And they said to them, "Go and explore the land." And they came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah, and lodged there. When they were there by the house of Micah, they recognized the voice of the young Levite, and they turned aside and said to him, "Who brought you here? What are you doing in this place? What is your business here?" And he said to them, "This is how Micah dealt with me. He has hired me, and I have become his priest." And they said to him, "Inquire of God, please, that we may know whether the journey on which we are setting out will succeed." And the priest said to them, "Go in peace, the journey on which you will go is under the eye of the Lord." Then the 5 men departed and came to Laish, and saw the people who were there, how they lived in security after the manner of the Sidonians, quiet and unsuspecting, lacking nothing that is on the earth, and possessing wealth, and how they were far from the Sidonians, had no dealings with anyone. And when they came to their brothers at Zorah and Eshtaol, their brothers said to them, "What do you report?" They said, "Arise, let us go up against them, for we have seen the land, and behold, it is very good. And will you do nothing? Do not be slow to go in and enter and possess to take the land. As soon as you go, you will come to an unsuspecting people. The land is spacious, for God has given it into your hands, a place where there is no lack of anything that is in the earth." So 600 men of the tribe of Dan, armed with weapons of war, set out from Zorah and Eshtaol, and went up and encamped at Kiriath Jearim in Judah. On this account that place is called Mahanadan. To this day, behold, it is west of Kiriath-Jearim. And they passed on from there to the hill country of Ephraim, and came to the house of Micah. Getting to the story now. Then the 5 men who had gone out to scout out the country of Laish said to their brothers, Do you know that in these houses there are an ephod, household gods, a carved image, and a metal image? Now therefore consider what you will do. And they turned aside there and came to the house of a young Levite at the home of Micah, and asked him about his welfare. Now the 600 men of the Danites, armed with their weapons of war, stood by the entrance of the gate. And the 5 men who had gone to scout out the land went up and entered and took the carved image, the ephod, the household gods, and the metal image, while the priest stood at the entrance of the gate with the 600 men armed with weapons of war. And when they went into Micah's house and took the carved image, the ephod, the household gods, and the metal image, the priest said to them, What are you doing? And they said to him, Keep quiet, put your hand on your mouth, and come with us. Come and be to us a father and a priest. It is better for you to be a priest to the house of one man, or to be a priest to a tribe and a clan in Israel. Oh, is it better? Sorry. And the priest's heart was glad. He took the ephod and the household gods and the carved image and went along with the people. So they turned and departed, putting the little ones and the livestock and the goods in front of them in the procession of where they're walking. When they had gone a distance from the home of Micah, the men who were in the houses near Micah's house were called out, and they overtook the people of Dan. And they shouted to the people of Dan, who turned around and said to Micah, What is the matter with you, that you come with such a company? And he said, You take my gods that I made and the priest, and go away. And what have I left? How then do you ask me, What is the matter with you? And the people of Dan said to him, Do not let your voice be heard among us, lest angry fellows fall upon you, and you lose your life with the lives of your household. Then the people of Dan went their way, and when Micah saw that they were too strong for him, he turned and went back to his home. But the people of Dan took what Micah had made, and the priests who belonged to him, and they came to Laish, to a people quiet and unsuspecting, and struck them with the edge of the sword and burned the city with fire. And there was no deliverer because it was very far from Sidon, and they had no dealings with anyone. It was in the valley that belongs to Beth Rehob. Then they rebuilt the city and lived in it. And they named the city Dan after the name of Dan, the ancestor who was born to Israel. But the name of the city was Laish at the first. And the people of Dan set up the carved image for themselves, and Jonathan the son of Gershom, son of Moses. And his sons were priests to the tribe of the Danites unto this day of the captivity of the land. So they set up Micah's carved image that he had made, as long as the house of God was at Shiloh. Alright guys, I'm feeling pretty beat up here. I'm going to finish up here now. I'm just leaving that at 45 minutes. And yeah, I'm just going to call it a night, guys, and then pick it up tomorrow. So thank you for joining, anyone who might have ducked in quickly. Just a short read tonight, just to keep the routine up and to just read a little. But yeah, feeling pretty cooked at the moment. So I don't want to just keep reading if I feel that way. I want to make sure that I give it my all. And so therefore, I'll go get some rest and then come back and hit it again tomorrow. So have a wonderful night in Christ. God bless, and Maranatha.